Fighting at Terra Nova was one thing. Fighting at Earth meant putting their homeworld directly into the purification fleet arrived exactly when predicted. 800 warships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, arranged in perfect formation. Their combined firepower could glass a planet. Their commanders were confident this would be over quickly. President Dongyun Shin watched from the command center deep beneath the Himalayas. Around him, displays showed every human defense position. Orbital weapons platforms surrounded Earth. The defense fleet was positioned at strategic points throughout the system, and on Earth itself every major city had been turned into a fortress. "They're broadcasting," said a communication officer. The face of the fleet commander appeared on screen. She was from the Threx Communion, a species known for their bureaucratic efficiency. Her name was Velnara and her voice carried no emotion. "Humans of Earth, you are surrounded. Your fleet is outnumbered 16-1. Surrender immediately and your deaths will be quick. Resist and we will make your final days a nightmare. You have 1 hour to respond." Dongyun stood, straightening his jacket. He had been a diplomat before becoming president. He knew how to speak to power. But now he needed to speak as a human, not a politician. "Commander Velnara, we've spent 3 months preparing for this moment. We've studied your tactics. We've analyzed your weaknesses. We've built defenses you can't imagine, but most importantly, we've remembered who we are." He gestured to the screen behind him, showing images of Earth. Mountains, oceans, forests, cities. "This is our homeworld. We were born here. We evolved here. We've survived everything this planet threw at us for millions of years. Ice ages that should have killed us. Diseases that should have ended us. Predators that should have eaten us. But we're still here." His voice grew harder. "So here's our response. Come and take it." The transmission ended. Velnara stared at her screen in disbelief. In thousands of years of assembly history, no one had ever responded to overwhelming force with defiance. It was illogical. It was insane. "Begin the assault," she ordered. The purification fleet advanced, weapons charging. But as they crossed into the inner system, the first surprises appeared. Asteroids, dozens of them, suddenly lit up with propulsion systems. They weren't natural asteroids. They were bombs, hollowed out and filled with explosives, positioned in the fleet's path over the previous 3 months. The explosions tore through the advancing formation. 16 ships were destroyed immediately. 20 more were damaged. The perfect formation broke apart in chaos. "Evasive maneuvers," Velnara shouted. "How did they weaponize asteroids?" On Earth, Engineer Taiho Bei smiled grimly. "Because we're crazy enough to think of it." The human fleet struck next. Admiral Nari led 50 human warships in a desperate charge. They didn't try to fight the entire enemy fleet. Instead, they targeted the command ships, the vessels coordinating the assault. Lieutenant Hyun Choi, now commanding his own destroyer, pushed his ship into the heart of the enemy formation. "All power to forward shields. Ramming speed." His ship struck a Velic cruiser amidships, both vessels erupting in flames. Hyun and his crew ejected in escape pods at the last second, watching their ship die, taking an enemy with it. All across the battlefield, human ships fought with the same reckless courage. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but they refused to fight a conventional battle. They used tactics no civilized species would consider. Ramming, boarding, self-destruction, anything to hurt the enemy. But the numbers were overwhelming. One by one, human ships fell. The UTS Defiant took 3 direct hits and broke apart. The UTS Guardian was surrounded and destroyed. Within 6 hours, the human fleet was reduced to 19 ships. Velnara ordered the orbital bombardment to begin. Target their military installations. Show them the cost of resistance. Purple beams of energy lanced down from space, striking Earth's surface. Military bases vanished in nuclear-scale explosions. Orbital weapons platforms were systematically destroyed. The human defenses were being torn apart, but on the ground humanity had prepared. Private Ari Chung huddled in the defense bunker beneath New Seoul Arcology. She was 20 years old, had been studying art history before the war, and now she held a rifle bigger than she was. "They're coming down," her sergeant called. Atmospheric craft detected. "Prepare for ground assault." The purification fleet had decided to land troops. They wanted to occupy Earth cities to force a ground war. It was a mistake. The alien landing craft descended through Earth's thick atmosphere, struggling with the gravity and weather. Storms had been seeded by human weather control systems, making the landings difficult. Many craft crashed before reaching the surface. Those that landed faced something they hadn't expected. Every human was armed. Every building was a fortress. Every street was a kill zone. Ari watched through her scope as alien soldiers emerged from their craft. They moved clumsily in Earth's gravity, struggling with the thick atmosphere. Their suits were designed for comfort, not combat. "Fire!" her sergeant ordered. The humans opened up with everything they had. The aliens, expecting frightened civilians, found trained fighters. The street turned into a slaughter. Commander Junho Park led his Marines in a counterattack. They moved through the city using underground tunnels emerging behind enemy lines. The aliens had superior technology, but humans had superior knowledge of their own terrain. "Remember your training," Junho told his troops. "They're not used to this gravity. They're not used to this air. This is our world. We have the advantage." The ground battle raged for days. The aliens would take a building, only to find humans counterattacking from sewers and basements. They would establish a position, only to have it surrounded by armed civilians. Every victory cost them dearly. In space, the siege continued. The remaining human ships, now reduced to just 11, continued hit-and-run attacks. They couldn't win, but they could harass, annoy, and bleed the enemy. Dr. Yoonji Ko worked in a secret laboratory, racing against time. She had been studying the captured alien equipment and made a discovery. The assembly species had been so isolated from Earth-like environments that they had no resistance to Earth's microbes. "We can weaponize our bacteria," she explained to General Daehyun. "Modified strains that won't kill them, but will incapacitate them. It's not lethal, but it will make them too sick to fight." "Do it," Daehyun ordered. Within days, human ships began releasing clouds of modified bacteria throughout the battle zone. Alien crews started falling ill. Their medical systems couldn't cope with the microscopic invasion. Ship after ship reported crew incapacitation. Velnara watched her fleet falling apart in confusion. "What are they doing to us?" a medical officer reported, his voice weak with sickness. "It's biological warfare, Commander. Their world's bacteria is attacking our immune systems. We need to evacuate contaminated ships." "That's over 100 vessels," Velnara shouted. "We can't abandon that many ships." But they had no choice. The bacteria spread through air systems, through water supplies, through every shared space. The purification fleet was being defeated by organisms too small to see. On Earth, civilian coordinator Seok Lim organized the resistance networks. He was 60 years old, a former teacher, and he had spent 3 months training civilians for this moment. "Every person counts," he told his groups. "You don't need to be soldiers. You just need to be brave. Carry messages, deliver supplies, provide shelter, help the wounded. Every act of resistance matters." His network connected millions of civilians across the planet. When military units needed supplies, civilians delivered them. When soldiers were wounded, civilians hid them. When the enemy controlled a district, civilians became the eyes and ears of the resistance. The battle for Earth lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks of constant fighting. 3 weeks of unimaginable casualties. The human military lost 60% of its personnel. 40 major cities were heavily damaged. Millions of civilians died. But the purification fleet was broken. Velnara sat in her command chair, staring at reports that made no sense. She had started with 800 ships. Now, between combat losses, captured vessels, and contaminated ships, she had fewer than 400 operational. Her ground forces were pinned down in cities they couldn't control. Her crews were sick. Her supplies were running low, and the humans still wouldn't surrender. A communication came from her superiors in the assembly. "Commander Velnara, you are ordered to deploy planet-killer weapons. Sterilize Earth and end this." She looked at the order with something like horror. Planet killers were weapons of last resort. They would turn Earth into a dead rock. But they would kill everyone. Military and civilian. Adult and child, everything. "Commander?" her weapons officer asked. "Should I arm the devices?" Velnara hesitated. She had joined the military to protect civilization, not to commit genocide. But her orders were clear. Either destroy Earth completely or return in defeat. Before she could answer, new contacts appeared on the sensors. Ships emerging from hyperspace. But these weren't assembly ships. The configuration was unknown. "Identify those vessels," she ordered. The analysis came back quickly. "They're not in any database. Unknown origin. Unknown species. But Commander, there are over 200 of them. On Earth, President Donghyun received the same report. Unknown ships had just a P. The footage from the Battle of Terra Nova spread across the Galactic Assembly like wildfire. Every species with access to the galactic network watched in stunned silence as humans fought with a ferocity they had never imagined possible. Rixnall, a historian from the peaceful Lumari people, watched the recordings for the 5th time. His species had never known war. They had evolved on a paradise world where food was abundant and predators didn't exist. Violence was something they read about in ancient texts, not something they understood, but watching the humans was like looking into the eyes of something from a nightmare. They rammed their ships into the enemy. Rixnall muttered to himself. They fought in vacuum. They boarded vessels in the middle of battle. How is this possible? He pulled up Earth's classification again. Class 12 Deathworld. He had seen the designation before, but he hadn't truly understood it. Now he did research. Earth's gravity was 1.3 times the galactic standard. Most species found such gravity crushing. Earth's oxygen levels were high enough to be toxic to 70% of known life. The weather patterns included hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis that regularly killed thousands. And the evolutionary competition was beyond comprehension. Humans had evolved alongside apex predators. They had competed with them, outsmarted them, and eventually conquered them. Every human carried the genetic memory of 10,000 generations of survival against impossible odds. No wonder they fight so hard, Rixnall whispered. They don't know any other way. On Earth, the victory at Terra Nova was celebrated, but the celebrations were brief. Everyone knew the reprieve was temporary. Dr. Jinwoo Nam, a xenoanthropologist, presented his findings to the Emergency Council. His research team had been studying every piece of data collected about the Galactic Assembly. We need to understand who we're dealing with, Jinwoo explained, displaying charts and graphs. The Assembly consists of over 40,000 species. But here's what's important. 97% of them evolved on gentle worlds. They never developed hunting behaviors. They never experienced resource scarcity. They never had to fight for survival. Ambassador Jisoo Kim leaned forward. What does that mean for us? It means they don't understand war the way we do. To them, conflict is an aberration, something managed by bureaucracy and overwhelming force. They've never faced an enemy that refused to quit. They've never seen persistence hunting. They don't comprehend the concept of fighting to the death because for them, death is something to be avoided at all costs. General Daehyun nodded slowly. So we scare them, terrify them, Jinwoo corrected. They watched us board their ships. To them, that's barbaric. They watched our ships continue fighting after taking lethal damage. To them, that's impossible. They watched Commander Kang ram his ship into the enemy. To them, that's insanity. But to us, said Admiral Nari, who had just returned from Terra Nova, it's just war. Intelligence officer Haeun Yoon had been working on something else. She had hacked into the captured Velic ships and extracted their database. What she found changed everything. The Assembly has eliminated 7 Deathworld species before us, Haeun reported to the Council. But it's not what you think. They weren't eliminated because they were aggressive. They were eliminated because they were competition. She brought up ancient records translated by the captured computers. 12,000 years ago, a species called the Krenth reached space. They came from a high-gravity world with minimal resources. They were natural engineers, incredibly innovative. Within a century, they had technology that matched the Assembly's best. So the Assembly destroyed them. Completely. They called it a preemptive strike for galactic peace. They murdered an entire species because they were afraid of competition? Jisoo's voice shook with anger. 7 times, Haeun confirmed. It's a pattern. Any Deathworld species that reaches space gets classified as a threat and eliminated. The Assembly maintains its power by ensuring no one can challenge them. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the implications. The Assembly wouldn't stop. They couldn't allow humanity to survive because humanity represented everything they feared. Innovation, determination, the refusal to submit. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Assembly convened an emergency session. The chamber was filled with thousands of delegates all speaking at once. Fear and confusion reigned. Counselor Sumin Chung stood at the human delegation's platform. She was Earth's first official representative to the Assembly. having arrived on a captured Velic ship. Her presence alone was controversial. "Order," the assembly speaker called. "The human delegation wishes to address this body." Suman stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "Members of the Galactic Assembly, we did not choose this war. Your forces attacked our ship without provocation. Your fleet invaded our space without warning. We defended ourselves, and now you call us monsters for refusing to die quietly." Angry voices rose from dozens of delegations. "You're too dangerous. You don't belong here. You'll destroy us all." Suman waited for the noise to quiet. "You're right to be afraid, but not for the reasons you think. You should be afraid because you've built your entire civilization on a lie. You've told yourselves that you're peaceful, that you're enlightened, that you've moved beyond violence. But the truth is, you've just been lucky. You evolved on easy worlds. You never had to fight for anything. And when you encountered species that did fight, that did struggle, that did refuse to surrender, you murdered them." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some delegates shouted denials. Others demanded Suman's removal. But others, mostly from younger species or those from marginally harder worlds, listened with growing interest. Rixnell stood in the Lumari section. As a historian, he knew Suman was telling the truth. The ancient records confirmed it. The Assembly had always eliminated potential rivals. They just called it something else. A delegate from the powerful Velic hierarchy spoke next. "The human admits they are dangerous. They admit they fight without restraint. This proves our point. They must be neutralized before they threaten us all." Suman smiled coldly. "We are dangerous, but only to those who threaten us. We came to the stars seeking knowledge, seeking partners, seeking a place among the galactic community. You responded with weapons. You made us your enemies, and now you're learning the cost of that mistake." The Velic delegate's skin rippled with anger. "One species cannot stand against 40,000. "No," Suman agreed. "But one species can make you think twice about attacking them. One species can make the cost so high that you decide diplomacy is better than war. That's all we want. The right to exist. The right to defend ourselves. The right to live free." Before the debate could continue, alarms sounded throughout the assembly station. Security forces rushed into the chamber. An announcement came over all speakers. "Emergency alert. 6 assembly member species have declared independence from assembly authority. They are demanding equal rights for all species, regardless of origin world classification. They cite the human defense of Terra Nova as inspiration." The chamber fell silent. Then the implications hit. The assembly was fracturing. On Earth, Heon-Yun received a secret transmission. It was from Rixnall, the Lumari historian. He had risked everything to send it. "Humans," his message began, "you must prepare. The assembly is forming a coalition. They call it the Purification Fleet. 8 species are contributing ships. The Velic, the Threx, the Vornik, and 5 others. They're building the largest military force in assembly history. 800 warships, all targeted at Earth." Heon's hands shook as she listened to the rest of the message. "They've decided that allowing you to survive would encourage other species to rebel. They're going to make an example of you. Complete extermination. Not just your fleet, but your colonies, your space stations, even Earth itself. They'll sterilize your worlds rather than let your species continue." The message ended with a final warning. "They launch in 3 months. I'm sorry. I wish my people had the courage to stand with you, but we've been peaceful for too long. We've forgotten how to fight. You're alone." General Daehyun called an emergency meeting of all Earth's military leaders. The mood was grim. 800 ships, he said quietly, against our 31 surviving vessels and whatever we can build in 3 months. "We can't build enough ships," Admiral Nari said. "Even working around the clock, we'll have maybe 50 operational warships by then." "Then we evacuate," suggested one general. "Take as many people as possible and run. Find a hidden colony somewhere far away." "And abandon billions?" Jisoo shook her head. "Never. We don't leave people behind." Dr. Yuna Park had been quiet, but now she spoke. "We don't have to win. We just have to survive long enough." Everyone looked at her. "The assembly is afraid of us because we won't quit. So we don't quit. We make them pay for every meter of space. We make the siege so costly that other species question whether the assembly is right. We turn this into a battle of wills, not just firepower." "You're suggesting we let them come to Earth," Daehyun said slowly. "I'm suggesting we make Earth our fortress," Yuna replied. "We have 3 months. We build defenses. We prepare every citizen. We make our homeworld into something so difficult to conquer that they give up. Silence filled the room as everyone considered the implications. The first shot came from the Velic fleet. A purple beam of concentrated energy crossed the distance between the two forces in an instant. It struck the shields of the UTS Vigilant and overloaded them immediately. The human destroyer went dark, drifting in space with its systems fried. "All ships a scatter formation Delta," Admiral Nari shouted. "Don't let them target you easily." The human fleet broke apart, each ship moving in different directions. It looked chaotic, but it was practiced. The Velic expected formations, expected predictable military doctrine. They got neither. Commander Kixthar watched from his flagship with amusement. "They flee already. Pursue and destroy them one by one." But the humans weren't fleeing. They were hunting. The UTS Defiant dove beneath the plane of battle, accelerating hard. 3 other human ships followed. They came up behind a Velic cruiser and opened fire with everything they had. Railguns, missiles, and laser batteries all struck the same spot on the alien ship's shields. Engineer Taiho Bei had worked for 72 hours straight to create the solution. He had studied the Velic shield frequency rotation and found the pattern. It repeated every 4.3 seconds. If human ships concentrated fire in that exact window, they could punch through. The Velic cruiser's shields collapsed. Human weapons tore into its hull. Atmosphere vented into space. The ship went dead and its crew abandoned it in escape pods. "One down," Nari said grimly. 199 to go. Across the battlefield, pilot Minji Han led her fighter squadron in a desperate attack. She had been flying since she was 16, and her reflexes were faster than any computer. Her fighter dove and weaved through the Velic formation, moving in patterns that their targeting systems couldn't predict. "Wolf Squadron, on me," she called. "We're going for the flagship's engines." 12 fighters followed her toward the massive Velic command ship. Point defense weapons tracked them. But Minji's unpredictable movements made her nearly impossible to hit. She felt the G-forces crushing her body, but she pushed through. Humans could endure more than the aliens thought possible. They reached the flagship's rear section. Minji armed her heavy torpedoes. "Fire everything." 24 torpedoes struck the flagship's engine section simultaneously. Explosions rippled across the hull. The massive ship shuddered and began to list, one of its main engines destroyed. But the victory came at a cost. Enemy fire found 3 of her squadron. 3 friends vanished in balls of flame. Minji felt rage building in her chest, but she channeled it into focus. "Reform on me. We're not done yet." On the ground, Terra Nova's 3 million colonists watched the battle in the sky. They could see the explosions, the lights of weapons fire, the ships dying. They knew their fate depended on the outcome. Commander Junho Park stood with his Marine regiment in the main spaceport. If the fleet failed, the Velic would land troops. And Junho was ready. "Check your seals one more time," he told his soldiers. "If we have to fight in vacuum, our suits are the only thing keeping us alive." One young Marine looked nervous. "Sir, what if we can't stop them?" Junho put his hand on the soldier's shoulder. "Then we make them pay for every meter of ground. We're Marines. We hold the line. That's what we do." In space, the battle raged for hours. Human ships took terrible damage. The UTS Courageous was cut in half by enemy fire. The UTS Relentless had its bridge destroyed and was being commanded from engineering. The UTS Guardian was literally held together by emergency force fields. But the humans wouldn't stop. When their shields failed, they kept fighting. When their weapons overheated, they kept firing. When their hulls were breached, they sealed the sections and kept moving. A Velic officer on Kixthar's bridge looked at the damage reports in disbelief. "Commander, we've lost 73 ships." 73! These primitives should have been destroyed hours ago. Kixthar stared at the tactical display. The humans were down to 31 operational ships, but those 31 were fighting like demons. They used tactics he had never seen. They rammed damaged ships into his vessels. They used debris as weapons. They exploited every weakness. One human ship, the UTS Indomitable, had lost all weapons and most of its systems. It should have retreated. Instead, Captain Min Ho Kang aimed it directly at a Velic battleship and maxed the engines. "All crew abandon ship," Minho ordered. "Go now!" The crew evacuated in escape pods while Minho stayed at the helm. The Indomitable, moving at incredible speed, struck the Velic battleship like a bullet. Both ships exploded in a massive fireball. Lieutenant Hyun Choi watched from an escape pod, tears streaming down his face. His captain had just sacrificed himself to take out an enemy ship. It was the kind of choice humans understood, the kind of choice the Velic couldn't comprehend. Admiral Nari made a decision. She opened a channel to all human ships. "This is Nari. We can't win by trading shots. We need to make them afraid. All ships prepare for boarding actions." The Velic couldn't believe what they were hearing. Boarding actions? In modern space combat? It was insane. No civilized species had attempted shipboarding in thousands of years, but humans weren't civilized by Velic standards. They were Deathworlders. Hyun, rescued by a passing ship, immediately volunteered to lead a boarding team. Within minutes, he was in a combat suit with 20 other Marines. Their ship pulled alongside a Velic cruiser and locked on with magnetic clamps. Breach in 3, 2, 1. They cut through the hull with plasma torches and flooded into the Velic ship. The aliens inside had never faced combat in their lives. They were technicians, officers who managed systems from comfortable chairs. The sight of humans in combat armor moving with lethal purpose paralyzed them with fear. The boarding action lasted 15 minutes. Hyun's team took the bridge and forced the Velic crew to surrender. Then they turned the ship's weapons on the rest of the Velic fleet. All across the battlefield, human boarding teams seized control of alien vessels. The Velic had better technology, but humans had something they didn't. Humans understood violence. Humans had spent their entire evolutionary history learning to fight, to survive, to win against impossible odds. Commander Kixthar realized the battle was lost when his own flagship was boarded. He barely escaped in his personal shuttle, watching in horror as human Marines took control of his command ship. Around him, his fleet was being destroyed or captured. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships retreat immediately." The surviving Velic vessels fled, leaving behind 73 destroyed ships and another 35 captured by boarding actions. The human fleet had lost 16 ships with another 15 too damaged to fight, but Terra Nova was saved. On the colony's surface, people emerged from shelters to see debris burning up in the atmosphere like shooting stars. They had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. Admiral Nari sat in her damaged command chair, exhausted but alive. Around her, the crew was cheering, crying, embracing. They had just won humanity's first battle against an alien force. But Nari knew this was only the beginning. She had seen the size of the Velic fleet. If they came back with everything they had, Earth wouldn't survive. A communication came through from one of the captured Velic ships. Hyun had secured a prisoner, a young Velic officer who had surrendered rather than fight. "Admiral, you need to hear this," Hyun said. The Velic officer appeared on screen, trembling. Its 4 arms were bound and its dark eyes showed genuine terror. "Please don't kill me. I'll tell you anything." "We don't want to kill you," Nari said firmly. "We just want answers." "Why did you attack us?" The alien's words came out in a rush. "You're Deathworlders. The Assembly always eliminates Deathworld species. You're too dangerous, too violent. You don't stop fighting even when you should be dead. We've never seen anything like it." Nari exchanged glances with her officers. "How many ships does the Assembly have?" "Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. And when they hear what happened here, when they learn that you captured our ships, that you boarded us like savage pirates, they'll send everything. They'll burn your worlds to ash rather than let you survive." The celebrating on the bridge died down. Everyone heard the alien's words. Everyone understood what it meant. They had won the battle. But the war was just beginning. Nari stood up and looked at her crew. Blood and sweat covered their faces. Their uniforms were torn. Many were injured. But their eyes held determination, not fear. "Send a message to Earth," she said quietly. "Tell them we won. Tell them we're coming home. And tell them to prepare, because they're going to come at us with everything they have." As she spoke, she looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Assembly was learning about humanity's victory. They were learning that humans couldn't be easily destroyed, and that terrified them. Good, Nari thought. Let them be afraid. We've been afraid our entire existence. It's time they learned what that feels like. The emergency beacon reached Earth 43 hours after Captain Kang sent it. Within minutes, alarms rang in every government building across the planet. Within hours, the world knew. Humanity was not alone, and they were in danger. Ambassador Jisoo Kim sat in the emergency council chamber deep beneath Geneva. Around the table sat representatives from every major nation. The mood was tense, but there was no panic. Humans had faced extinction before. Show them the footage again, Jisoo said. The holographic display replayed the encounter between the Indomitable and the Velic ship. Everyone watched in silence as the alien called humans dangerous, as it demanded surrender. As it opened fire without warning, General Daehyun Song leaned forward, his weathered face grim. He had commanded troops in 3 wars and never lost his calm. We need to mobilize everything. The Terran Defense Fleet, all reserve forces, every ship we can put in space. We have 47 warships, said Admiral Nari Huang. She was younger than most flag officers, promoted quickly because of her brilliant tactical mind. If their entire hierarchy has thousands, we're outmatched. Then we build more, Daehyun replied. We convert civilian ships. We arm everything that can fly. And we prepare our people. Jisoo held up her hand. Before we commit to total war, we need to understand what we're facing. The Indomitable's computer recorded everything. Our scientists are analyzing their technology right now. Across the city, in a secure research facility, Dr. Yuna Park worked with Earth's best engineers and physicists. She had transmitted all her scans of the Velic ship before going dark. Now those scans were being studied by thousands of experts. Their shields operate on a rotating frequency, explained one engineer. That's why our railguns didn't penetrate. But if we can predict the frequency pattern, we can time our shots. Another scientist added, their weapons are powerful, but they require charging time. About 3 seconds between shots. That's an exploitable weakness. Yuna looked at the data streams flowing across multiple screens. There's something else. Their technology is more advanced than ours, but it's standardized. Like they all use the same basic designs. There's no innovation, no creativity. What does that mean? Asked the lead engineer. It means they've been using the same technology for a very long time. They're comfortable, complacent. They haven't had to innovate because they haven't faced real challenges. Yuna's eyes gleamed. We can use that. Meanwhile, far from Earth, the Velic hierarchy was presenting its case to the Galactic Assembly. The assembly hall was enormous, a space station larger than Earth's moon. Representatives from thousands of species gathered to hear Kellon's report. The humans are a clear and present danger, Quellon announced to the assembled delegates. His image was projected so all could see. They originate from Earth, a planet so hostile that merely landing there would kill most of you. The gravity would crush your bones. The oxygen would poison your blood. The weather would tear you apart. Murmurs of concern rippled through the assembly. Most species came from gentle worlds where evolution had been kind. They had never known real predators, never experienced the harsh competition that shaped humanity. A delegate from the Threx Communion spoke, its voice translated into thousands of languages simultaneously. Surely one species cannot threaten the entire galaxy. We have faced challenges before. You don't understand, Quellon insisted. He displayed the biological data collected from the Indomitable's crew. Look at their physiology. They have backup organs in case the primary ones fail. Their bodies produce chemicals that suppress pain and increase strength during stress. They heal from injuries that would kill most of us. And their psychology is built around persistence. They don't stop. They don't give up. They don't surrender. Another delegate, this one from the peaceful Rennie species, trembled visibly. They sound like monsters. They are the product of a monster world, Kellon agreed. And they are not the first. The Assembly has encountered 7 previous Deathworld species. All were eliminated before they could spread their violence. An old counselor from the Vornik Collective pulled up ancient records. The last Deathworld species was encountered 12,000 years ago. The Assembly deployed overwhelming force and neutralized them within a year. But it cost millions of lives. The chamber fell silent. Every being present understood what was being suggested. Finally, the Assembly speaker called for a vote. The question before us is simple. Do we quarantine this human species? Do we attempt peaceful integration? Or do we authorize preemptive military action? The vote was close, but the decision was made. The Velic hierarchy was granted authorization to neutralize the human threat using minimal necessary force. Humanity would be offered one chance to surrender. If they refused, they would be eliminated. Commander Kixthar received his orders with satisfaction. He commanded the largest Velic battle fleet, 200 warships designed to enforce the hierarchy's will across dozens of star systems. Dealing with one primitive species would be easy. Set course for human space, he ordered. We will offer them terms. When they refuse, we will demonstrate the price of defiance. Back on Earth, preparations continued around the clock. General Daehyun moved the entire defense fleet into position around humanity's key colonies. Every military base operated at full capacity. Factories that had been making civilian products were converted to produce weapons and ammunition, but Ambassador Jisoo knew that military might alone wouldn't save them. She recorded a message, one that would be transmitted throughout the galaxy. To the Galactic Assembly, she began, looking directly into the camera. We are humanity. We come from Earth, a world that has challenged us every day of our existence. We have survived ice ages that covered our continents. We have overcome diseases that killed millions. We have endured wars that threatened to destroy us, but we survived. We learned. We grew. She paused, choosing her words carefully. You call us dangerous because we refuse to die easily. You call us violent because we defend ourselves. You call us primitive because we are new to the stars. But we call ourselves human. We value peace, but we will not surrender our freedom. We seek cooperation, but we will not bow to threats. Her voice grew harder. We did not choose this conflict. You attacked our ship without provocation. You demanded our submission without negotiation. You have judged us without understanding us. So now we give you one chance to reconsider. Approach us in peace and we will answer in peace. But approach us with weapons and you will learn why Earth produced survivors, not victims. The message was transmitted across every frequency the Indomitable had recorded. It reached the assembly within days. Some delegates were impressed by humanity's courage. Others saw it as confirmation of their dangerous nature. Most simply couldn't comprehend a species that would defy such overwhelming odds. The Velic fleet entered human space 3 weeks after the first encounter. Commander Kixthar expected to find panicked primitives begging for mercy. Instead, he found a defense fleet waiting for him in perfect formation around a colony world called Terra Nova. Admiral Nari Huang stood on the bridge of the flagship UTS Defiant. Around her, 47 human warships held their positions. Every crew member knew they were outnumbered more than 4 to 1. Every person knew this might be their last day. But none of them considered retreat. A transmission came from the Velic flagship. Kixthar's face appeared on screen, confident and dismissive. Human vessels, you are ordered to stand down immediately. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance is futile. Nari looked at the alien commander with cold eyes. She thought about her daughter back on Earth. She thought about all the children growing up across human space. She thought about everything humanity had built and everything they still hoped to achieve. This is Admiral Nari Huang of the Terran Defense Fleet. You have invaded our space. You have threatened our people. You have given us no choice but to fight. So let me be clear. We will not stand down. We will not surrender. And if you want this colony, you'll have to take it from our cold, dead hands. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. All ships weapons free. Show them what humans are made of. The Battle of Terra Nova was about to begin. The stars looked the same as always. Captain Minho Kang stood on the bridge of the UTS Indomitable, watching the endless darkness outside. His ship had been traveling for 3 months, exploring the far edge of human space. They were looking for new planets, new resources, maybe even signs of life. Minho never expected to actually find it. Captain, we have something on sensors, said Ensign Sora Lee from her station. Her young face showed excitement mixed with fear. It's big, really big. Minho walked to her console and looked at the readings. A massive ship was approaching them. It was twice the size of the Indomitable, with a design unlike anything humans had ever built. Smooth curves, glowing lights, and strange symbols covered its hull. Battle stations, Minho said calmly. But don't power weapons yet. Hyun, what do you think? Lieutenant Hyun Choi studied his tactical screen with sharp eyes. He had spent 10 years in special operations before joining the exploration fleet. They're not showing hostile intent, but they could vaporize us if they wanted to. Dr. Yuna Park rushed onto the bridge, her tablet in hand. As the ship's xenobiologist, this was the moment she had dreamed about her entire career. We're really making first contact, she whispered. This changes everything. The alien ship moved closer. Then, without warning, every screen on the bridge flickered. An image appeared. The creature on the screen was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that shimmered like oil on water. Its eyes were large and dark, and when it spoke, a translation came through in perfect Korean. Primitive vessel, you will identify yourselves immediately. Minho felt his jaw tighten. The tone was not friendly. but he kept his voice steady. "I am Captain Minho Kang of the United Terran Coalition. We come in peace. This is humanity's first contact with another intelligent species." The alien's expression changed. It looked almost amused. "Humanity? Your species designation is unknown. Stand by for biological scan." Before Minho could respond, a blue light swept through the ship. Every crew member felt a tingling sensation as the alien technology analyzed them down to their DNA. The process took only seconds, but it felt much longer. The alien studied the results on screens that Minho couldn't see. Its expression shifted from amusement to surprise, then to something that looked like disgust. "Impossible," the alien muttered. "You originate from a Class 12 death world. Your planet should not have produced spacefaring intelligence." "Death world?" Yuna stepped forward. "What does that mean?" The alien focused on her. "I am High Arbiter Quilon of the Velic hierarchy. We are members of the Galactic Assembly, which governs 40,000 civilized worlds. Your planet, which you call Earth, has been classified as one of the most dangerous environments in known space. The gravity is crushing. The oxygen levels are toxic. The weather patterns are catastrophic. The evolutionary pressures are extreme." Quilon's forearms moved in what might have been a gesture of dismissal. "According to our analysis, your species are apex predators. Your biology shows redundant organs, accelerated healing, extreme endurance, and psychological resilience that borders on insanity. You are Category 9 dangerous." Minho felt a strange mixture of pride and concern. "We evolved to survive our world. That doesn't make us dangerous to others." "You don't understand," Quilon said. His tone grew colder. "In galactic history, only 7 Death World species have reached space. All were eliminated. They were too aggressive, too violent, too unpredictable to exist alongside civilized peoples. You are the 8th, and you will submit to Velic protection protocols." "Protection protocols?" Hyun moved his hand closer to the weapons console. "What does that mean?" "Your species will be placed under our supervision. Your ships will be decommissioned. Your worlds will be monitored. You will not be permitted to develop further military technology. This is for the safety of the galaxy." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member understood what they were hearing. This alien wanted humanity to surrender everything they had built. They wanted humans to become prisoners in their own star system. Minho took a deep breath. He thought about Earth, about the 12 colonies, about the 3 billion humans spread across those worlds. He thought about everything humanity had survived. Ice ages, plagues, wars, extinction events. They had clawed their way up from the caves to the stars, and now this alien wanted them to give up. "No," Minho said simply. Quilon's eyes widened. "You refuse? You primitives have no concept of what you face. The Velic hierarchy commands thousands of warships. The Galactic Assembly has resources beyond your comprehension. You cannot win." "Maybe not," Minho replied. "But we won't surrender without a fight. Humanity doesn't kneel." "Then you have signed your death warrant." Quilon made a gesture with 2 of his arms. "Your species will be neutralized. It is regrettable but necessary." The screen went black. Alarms blared across the bridge. "They're powering weapons," Hyun shouted. "Shields up!" Evasive maneuvers. The Indomitable lurched as Minho threw the ship into a hard turn. A beam of purple energy sliced through the space where they had been seconds before. The alien weapon was powerful, more powerful than anything in the human arsenal. "Return fire," Minho ordered. The Indomitable's railguns fired, sending tungsten slugs at relativistic speeds toward the Velic ship. The rounds hit some kind of energy shield and exploded harmlessly. The aliens had better technology, better shields, better weapons. Another beam struck the Indomitable's port side. The shield held, but barely. Warning lights flashed red across every console. "We can't take another hit like that," Hyun reported. "Shields at 30%. Yuna grabbed Minho's arm. "The nebula. We passed through a dust nebula 2 days ago. If we can reach it, their sensors might lose us." It was a desperate plan, but it was the only plan they had. Helm, set course for the nebula. Full speed. Divert all power from weapons to engines and shields. The Indomitable ran. The Velic ship pursued, firing again and again. Each shot came closer. The hull groaned under the stress. Systems overloaded and failed, but the crew held together, working with precision born from training and determination. They reached the nebula's edge just as the shields collapsed. The ship dove into the thick clouds of gas and dust. The Velic sensors couldn't penetrate the interference. The Indomitable drifted deeper, powered down to minimal systems, hiding like prey from a predator. Hours passed in tense silence. Finally, the Velik ship turned away, confident that the humans were either destroyed or too damaged to matter. When they were sure it was safe, Minho stood. His uniform was torn and blood ran from a cut on his forehead, but his eyes were hard with determination. Sora, send an emergency beacon to Earth. Priority 1. Tell them everything. Tell them we are not alone in the universe. Tell them we have been attacked. He looked around at his crew. Tell them that humanity needs to prepare for war. The message was sent, traveling faster than light toward home. It carried news that would change everything. Humanity was no longer alone, and they had already made an enemy.